Hello, neighbor. This is Novels and Bits podcast, and I am your favorite host, Chizoba Katie. How are you doing? Today, we'll be continuing with the story that we have started with. We've been doing From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Amentroid. I still do hope I'm getting the pronunciation of that name correctly. This is From Blood and Ash. So, where we left off in the last episode, we've already introduced you to Poppy, our female lead, and how she is the maiden and how her freedom is very constricted. We have not even shown how the freedom is constricted. You shall say it here. But the most important thing to note about last episode is she is part of the people who believes in giving the cursed death by dignity. As far as somebody innocently is serving the kingdom, and the thing that is plaguing the kingdom, the craven, attacks them. The ruling class of the kingdom, the ascended, believes that you bring that person out and burn them alive as a lesson, as though you intentionally went to get yourself beaten. But the network of people that Poppy is part of, and this network of people don't even know each other's faces most of the time. They're just bounded by belief. They believe that you don't do that to people, that you actually let them go with dignity. Because this craven thing they're turning into has a strong sense of survival. Those people can't kill themselves, even if they know they're cursed or they're infected. Someone else has to do it. Do you understand? Has to do it before they become monsters, bloodthirsty, hungry, tattered monsters. Okay? So now Poppy is done at the house of this man. She goes to Malobi. But before Malobi is killed, or passes peacefully in dignity, he informs Poppy that I was not the only one that came back home, came back cursed. I had this other person with me, Ridley. And Ridley is at the dome. He's a guard. He's at the dormitory with other guards, which means if he turns into Craven Day, it will be bloodshed he's unleashing. Do you understand? So this is them now, they're racing. But first of all, they said, let us check Ridley's father's house because it's closer to Maloi's house before they get to the dome. They go there, and it's Victor who interacts with Ridley's father. And Poppy's grateful. She's grateful that she did not have to interact with the man because even from where she's standing behind, she is feeling the intense grief that Ridley's father is feeling. And she has that natural urge to want to ease his grieving, which would cause her more headaches. And that's side effects of whenever she uses her gift. Ridley, like every other person who is turning Craven, had not been able to take care of himself, end his life. But his father had been able to do that. So Ridley is not a problem. He's actually already, dead. He didn't turn Craven, thankfully. Now, walking back through the Wishing Grove is basically a set of trees that is also a shortcut back to the castle. Victor opens conversation with Poppy that, see, you're using your gifts and showing your face to the ones that die with dignity. You should not be doing all that now. So she now claims that, it's just so that they will know that they are actually valuable people. Because, she's not supposed to be showing her face to anybody. But she shows her face to those people who she has to give death with dignity. Because in her mind, they're already dying anyway. So it's not like they're alive to snitch on how she looks like or anything. And sometimes she even uses her powers on them so they'll calm down, so they'll feel peace before they pass away. Vita is not telling her that, I understand why you want to help. I respect that. But it's a risk, Bobby. No one has said anything yet. Maybe they feel indebted to you. But that could change. I need to be careful. Now, the consequence of anybody finding out what Poppy's doing, especially, is a Duke's wrath. He has a penchant for punishing Poppy, this Duke, Tierman, and he hates Poppy. There's been days Victor had to help her to her room because she couldn't walk after receiving the punishment. So Victor is now telling her, you take too many risks, Poppy, even knowing he's not just a Duke or even the Queen you'd have to answer to. Sometimes I wonder if you want to be found unworthy. And honestly, that rings so true. Because Poppy doesn't get the point of this thing that they're telling her that she's chosen by the gods. She's going to be ascended. There's something she's like, screw this whole thing. Even if I'm found unworthy and so, you get. So Victor saying what is in her heart is making her feel irritated. I've mentioned this in the last episode and I'm mentioning it again. Others are waiting ascension. They don't live like Poppy does. Her brother Ian, before he ascended, he didn't. And the only reason Ian had ascended is because he's a brother of the maiden, the chosen. And the queen apparently had petitioned the gods for the exception because apparently it's only second sons and daughters that ascend. But her brother is a first son and co, but he was allowed to ascend. So Victor ends this conversation that, see, whatever you want to do, even if you want to be found unworthy, shall know you will ascend. It's not going to ever come to you being unworthy. So the next day, Poppy, she's out of it. She's lost in thought. She notices that dusk is setting in and it's time for her evening work. She swings open door without veil, and her other guard, Rylan, points it out that she's not wearing her veil. Because remember, she can't leave her room without the veil. But people close to her, like Vita, Rylan, her guardians, the Duke and Duchess Tierman, and that her friend, that lady in wait, awaiting ascension. Her name is going to come to me later. She too, they all know how she looks like. This handful of people, just about 5 people or so. So when she just opens the door because she's lost in thought, she stays. Her guard, Ryland, says, hey, you're not wearing your veil. So he calls her Pen, like, Pen, you're not wearing your veil. Okay, Tony. Tony is the name of that lady in waiting. The other people who can also see her without a veil, the queen and king of the kingdom, who are not exactly here. They're at the capital. Her brother Ian was permitted, but they're not here. So if anyone else had been in the hall and she had opened that door without her veil, they would have possibly fallen over in a dead faint. Because, oh my gosh, the maiden without a veil. That's a sight, okay? That's something that can cause a commotion because she's always wearing the veil. Rylan and Poppy, they're walking through the kitchen where servants, they're in high reverence of the maiden once they see her. They're stopped in their tracks by Lord Brandel Mazin. Whatever it concerns this Lord Maxine person, look at what Poppy thinks about this person. Remember, Lord Brandel Mazin is Duke Tierman's friend. You get? So Poppy thinks of him in this manner. I didn't see what I was sure most saw. A dark-haired man who appeared to be in his mid-20s. Handsome and tall. I saw a bully. I saw a cruel man who had long ago forgotten what it was like to be mortal. Like all ascended, his eyes were such a dark black that the pupils were invisible. I wondered what his eye color had been before he ascended, or if he even remembered. The Lord may only appear to be in his second decade of life, but I knew he'd ascended after the War of Two Kings, along with the Duke and Duchess. He was hundreds of years old. Hundreds of years old. This Lord Brando Mazin. And he's a very cruel person. And we already have the information that all ascended have dark eyes. Maxine too does not like Poppy, and his beef with her, she laughed when he lost to her brother Ian in a game of cards. The maiden isn't supposed to interact with others. You get? She's not even supposed to be interacting with this Maxine. But since Maxine and Duke are partners in wickedness, most of the rules don't apply to him when he concerns the maiden. He now asks for privacy. Him asking for privacy is not even a request. If she refuses, he will go and tattle to the Duke and they'll come and punish her. She has to now go to one alcove like that with curtains, only for Maxine to come and start touching Poppy inappropriately, threatening that he's going to tell the Duke if she doesn't behave. She's close to losing it. As per whatever will happen, let it happen. I'm going to finish this guy. But then a scream tears through. They hear a loud scream. So everybody now runs towards the source of the scream. And they now see a woman with her clothes bunched around her waist, as per somebody was apparently screwing this woman and left the clothes bunched around her waist. Her neck is at an unnatural angle and there are punctures in her neck. She's dead. So likely May discovered this body and screamed. This person did not just die. Now, the punctures in this dead woman's body is as if two fangs had penetrated her throat. In Poppy's room, back now in the state of her room, I don't think she goes on that walk again. She's with Tony, and both of them are making speculations. They're now saying that won't appear to be right over her jugular. There should have been blood everywhere, and I didn't even see a drop of it. That is more than just a little strange. And her neck was clearly broken. I know of no Craven that would do that. So you're thinking, oh, Cravens are the ones that have fangs, that can sink their teeth into people. Cravens are not intelligent enough to even sink at a puncture. They'll likely just feed on you randomly. They're just blood crazy. They're not coordinated. Do you understand? Victor is with other royal guards and they're searching. They're searching for anybody in the palace that is likely to be a suspect that did this thing to this young woman, this dead young woman. So when Victor returns, he has a bad headache. And he actually tells them that, that is search if there's any other victim in the castle, there is none. So Poppy, noting She knows about Victor's bad headaches, so she casually brushes her hand at the back of his neck to take away his pain. He's aware of what she just did and he's thankful. So after Rylan and Tony leave, Victor approaches her. He heard of Maxine and asked, did he behave anyway towards you? Because Victor knows how Maxine can be towards Poppy, that he's a bully. As Victor asked Poppy this question, it brought back how she felt when Maxine cornered her in that alcove. Nausea, shunned, and there's this weird embarrassment that is making her skin feel sticky and dirty. She doesn't understand why she feels that way. She knows she's not done anything to gain the Lord's attention. And even if she has, he's still in the wrong. So she just lies to Victor that he was just simply bothersome. She doesn't tell Victor about Lord Maxine touching her inappropriately because she just reasons it's not like Victor has any power against Maxine. And Victor knows that. So me telling him, how will it help? To just make him angry and over something he cannot do anything about. As for what caused that bite in the neck, the only explanation now that, Victor and Poppy are speculating together is an Atlantean. That's the thing that can cause that bite in the lady's neck. So the next morning, very early, Poppy, she sneaks to the library to read Kingdom of Sully's book and about Atlanteans. The worst information is this. Atlanteans, you can't tell they're Atlanteans by looking at them. They look like mortals. They can blend in. And it's believed that a year to mortals is equivalent to 3 decades for an Atlantean. So they live very long. The oldest known Atlantean was Cillian da Lahone, who saw 2,702 calendar years before his death. But the thing is, Atlanteans still age, unlike the Ascended who don't age at all. Those blessed by the gods who stopped at whatever age they were when they received the blessing. Ascended are believed to be blessed by the gods, so they stop aging at whatever age they were when they received the blessing. Only the oldest of the Ascended appeared older than someone in their 30s. And yet these Ascended people, they can live for an eternity. Atlanteans, on the other hand, they become mature between the age of 19 and 23, where they start craving blood. At this time, the Atlanteans are capable of passing on the ill spirits in their blood to mortals, creating a violent and destructive creature known as a Kraven, who share some of the physical traits of their creators. This curse, those people who are cursed, that is a Kraven, that curse is passed through a poisonous kiss. A poisonous kiss is not referencing two lips coming in contact with one another. The Atlanteans did what the Kraven did, albeit not as messily. Atlanteans, they will bite and they will drink the blood of mortals, something they'll have to do to survive. Hence that puncture in the jugular. Their enormous lifespan, strength, and healing abilities, they all stem from feeding of mortals, their primary food source. So apparently the Atlantean that did that thing to that lady in the library snapped the woman's neck so that she doesn't turn to Kraven. After, Poppy visits the room that the dead woman was found in and discovers a jasmine petal. She just visited the crime scene. She doesn't know why. All she finds there is a jasmine petal, and her stomach roils, which she finds odd because the only flowers in the room there are lilies. So she just stuffs the jasmine petal inside the white lilies there and she leaves because she doesn't know what to make of the flower. Now, preparations for rites are still going at full speed. Leaders don't want to cause panic by slowing down, the preparation for the rites. They don't want to be like, oh, somebody died, so let's slow down this thing. So just be like, hey, we're letting the Atlanteans control us. You understand? Let's continue with the things that we have on ground. Poppy and Rylan eventually go on that daily evening walk, another day like that. Now, as the sun disappears, giving way to the moon, hundreds of buds scattered over the vines tremble and then slowly peel open, revealing lush petals, the shade of a starless midnight. That's the night blooming roses. Rylan is in the middle of saying something, like commenting the beautifulness of the flowers when he groans. So, Poppy turns. Why is he groaning? There's an arrow through his chest. Blood is coming out the side of his mouth. He just tells her, run. Poppy doesn't run though. She kneels next to him, trying to staunch the blood flow and ease his pain. But she feels nothing, which means he's gone. The fact she can't feel pain coming from him means he's dead. So there's no more pain to be felt from him. Next thing, she hears footsteps and a man's voice. His face is covered in a hood. He now says, you're going to do as I say, maiden. Poppy obeys, but she's calculating. 3 Ascended were recently kidnapped and returned in pieces in a nearby town to send a message. Also, there's this maiden whose blood was drained and her corpse disrespected because they didn't just kill that maiden. They left her gown open as per her privates were showing. Do you understand? That's a disgraceful way to leave a corpse. So she's just calculating to herself, I cannot let these people take me because I don't even think they want to keep me alive. They'll likely use me to send a message. So Poppy uses the element of surprise and stabs for the heart of this person, but he's quick. But regardless, her knife does hit something vital, but doesn't take him down. He's angry, and an inhuman growl comes from him. As for this person is not just mortal alone. She stabs again, but he hits her. His hood pulls back. He's a blonde person and he has eyes of frosted water. That's his very blue eyes. He vows that he'll make her pay. She's standing some distance away. She's not running because she knows if she runs, he'll come after her like the predator he is. And she now promises that I'm not going to miss your heart a third time. He now tells her, I'm going to enjoy tearing your skin off your weak, fragile bones. I don't care what he has planned for you. I'll bathe in your blood and feast on your entrails. His teeth are smeared with blood. A wolf whistle call comes from somewhere, and that's what calls him off. He lives in pain because he's bleeding and cold, promising that he's going to return for her. Poppy is trembling and she's telling herself, get it together, get it together. She puts the knife away because whoever comes later, when the guards and co come now because Rylan is dead, they can't know that she learned to defend herself. And the truth is, if she hadn't learned to defend herself, like the rule stated that she's not supposed to learn how to defend herself, she would be dead right now. Guards are shocked to see her white gown stained. So Victor shows up there now, as per her other guard, to what happened and co. So as everything is going on, Poppy recalls Hawk's voice from that night she spent beside him at the Red Pearl. There was something he said. He said, death is like an old friend who pays a visit. Sometimes when it's least expected, and other times when you're waiting for her. So today, death had indeed paid an unexpected visit. A healer attends to Poppy, while Duchess Tierman is raging. She's now saying if the dissenters were to somehow stop that ascension, it would be their greatest triumph. She rises, smoothing her hands over her gown. It will be such a cruel strike against our queen and king and the gods. To this, Poppy is still shaking. It's actually Tony that asked the Duchess, you think he was a dissenter then? That he wasn't trying to take her for ransom? Victor now answers, the arrow used on Rylan was marked. It carried the Dark One's promise. So the Dark One's promise is, from blood and ash, we shall rise. For this, Poppy might be summoned to the capital. As per, Macedonia is no longer safe for her, so the queen might summon her to come over to Macedonia. Now, there is talk for Rylan's funeral. The ascended, as well as the lord and ladies in wait, are not expected to attend the funeral of a guard. In fact, it's simply not done. But Poppy will be attending. Rylan was more than her guard. He was her friend. So in her room, Poppy is examining her face in a mirror. According to the queen, because, Poppy was raised by the queen to a certain degree, Poppy looks like her mother, who was considered a great beauty. She and Ian have their father's green eyes, though. Queen Ileana speaks of Poppy's mother with pained fondness. She was supposed to ascend. That's what Poppy has heard of her mother. Poppy's mother was supposed to ascend, but her mother had pleaded not to because she was in love with a commoner, Poppy's father. Even not for that choice, Poppy and Ian wouldn't be born, as ascended people can't have children. It's not that they're not allowed to have children, they can't have children. The price of being young forever is you can't reproduce. Poppy's greatest fear isn't being summoned to the capital, it's that the queen could petition the gods to move up her ascension. Do you understand? She doesn't just want to ascend, and she doesn't know why. You get. Rylan's funeral, Victor is standing guard next to Poppy. There's so many guards. When it's time to light the pyre, the pyre now, a funeral pyre, like wood, that when you light it to burn the person's body and everything. Victor has to go forward to do it, but he doesn't want to leave her side unattended because it's just all guards there. However, Hawk steps up and says, I have her. That's why I'm here beside her. Now, the Duchess had said he came from the capital with glowing recommendations and would likely become one of the youngest royal guards. If becoming one of the youngest royal guards is what Hawk wants, stepping up like this, to stand by her side while Victor goes to light up the pyre, would surely help. After all, there has been a sudden, unexpected opening in the royal guard position. Quietly, Hawk now tells Poppy, you do him a great honor by being here. You do us all a great honor by being here. She wants to reply, but she can't because he'll know her voice. Remember, Poppy's veil looks like it's covering her face, down her eyes, although it's transparent enough that she can see. It covers her nose and it leaves her lips and her jaw exposed. So through this, Hawk sees that her jaw is inflamed as per where that man hit her, that person that wanted to abduct her. So Hawk says in a very firm voice. He assures her that she's not going to be hurt again. That hurt is not going to happen again. Now, the day after Rylan's funeral, Poppy is reading a romance novel that Tony brought her. And this romance novel falls in the category of things she should not be reading. She's only meant to read educational material or teachings of the gods, get that kind of boring life. So she has training with Victor later. So when she does, there is now talks of who would replace Rylan. It could be Hawk actually. But then it's also doubtful considering his closing age to her. But he is exceptionally skilled, more so than many of the royal guards. Now, I wasn't stroking his ego yesterday when I said that. That's Victor said that to him yesterday. He came here, that's his Hawk came here, held in high regard by the capital, and he appears to be close to Commander Johnson. The weekly council meeting holds in the dark in the evening because sun cannot touch ascended skin. As an ascended, you only have to be out in the dark in the evening because apparently the gods don't work in the sun. So ascended, in honor to the gods, don't work in the sun either. And probably I'm wondering, how did my brother adapt, considering that he loves being out in sunlight? So how did he adapt to being an ascended that only has to work in the dark? The true masterpiece of the Great Hall, where this council meeting is holding, is actually the ceiling. There's a hard-painted ceiling that is above. All the gods could be seen watching over people. Ayun and Raha, the flaming red-headed Ayos, the goddess of love, fertility and beauty. Sion, the dark-skinned god of the sky and the soil. He was earth, wind, and water. Beside him was Theon, the god of accord and war, and his twin Lila, the goddess of peace and vengeance. The dark-haired goddess of the hunt, Beli, armed with her bow. There was Paris, the pale white-haired god of the right and prosperity. Beside him was Rain, the god of the common man and endings. And then there was my namesake, Penelope, the goddess of wisdom, loyalty, and duty, which I found highly ironic because you're seeing these gods through Poppy's eyes. So Poppy, she is named after a goddess, Penelope, goddess of wisdom, loyalty, and duty. It's so ironic because she doesn't feel like any of those things. All their faces are captured in striking, vivid detail, all but Nyctos, the king of all the gods, who had made the first blessing. His face and form were nothing but brilliant, silvery moonlight. So nobody knows how Nyctos looks like, okay? Now the ascended, apparently, are descendants of the gods, by blood, if not by birth. People, ascended and mortal, whenever they come to this council meetings, they always kind of glance in Poppy's direction. They're curious about the maiden. She's always a curiosity, a sideshow put on display weekly, serving as a reminder that the gods could actively intervene in births and lives. Commoners are here to make requests and be judged. A particular couple steps up with their baby. They now inform the Duke and Duchess that they've already lost 2 sons with wasting disease. That this is their 3rd son that is supposed to be given to serve the gods after he turns a month old. But they're here to request that, can they not give over this boy? The woman can't try for a child again for health reasons. So the crowd, they're shocked by the bold request of this couple. The Duke and Duchess are firm in stating that the natural order of things is that the baby must serve the gods. First children can become anything they want in the order of things in this society. The second children, second sons and daughters, will ascend. They have to be ascended. While the third bonds are given over to be priests or priestesses in temples or whatever that they use them for in the temples. You get, they're meant to serve the ascended, the gods in that way, you get. So this couple saying, oh, please, can we keep our 3rd child because our 1st and 2nd died? The crowd is like, Abba, where did you get that liver from? And Duke and Duchess are not even agreeing to the requests. You get. Then they're unwilling to seek the gods for an exception. They are completely immune to the pain that these mortals are feeling. They've forgotten what it means to be mortal, what it means to lose a child, the pain of it. Poppy involuntarily feels the couple's grief. She feels it emanating from them. Normally, she has a guard up so that she doesn't keep feeling the feelings of everybody. But sometimes that guard slips. It's Victor who holds her back because she's even stumbling. The couple, they leave defeated. Resentment is thick in the air for what the Duke and Duchess did. How did it not actually even try at all for that couple? Do you understand? And we'll actually see how this thing comes back around to affect the course of things that follows after this. So we'll continue the story in the next episode. And thank you so much for hanging out with me. Tell someone about this story. Leave a review. Leave a comment. Share this story anywhere. I beg you. That's how this podcast goes so far. All right then. See ya. Bye.